Our top focus as of now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in New Delhi as of now, and he will be holding high-level meetings throughout the day today with a focus on boosting bilateral ties with India. Earlier today, Blinken spoke with a group of civil society leaders at a hotel in New Delhi, and he said that the relationship between India and the United States is one of the most important in the world.
We're connected by shared values and, I believe, shared aspirations that are common to our people. The Indian people, the American people, believe in human dignity, inequality of opportunity, the rule of law, fundamental freedoms, including freedom of religion and belief. We believe that all people deserve to have a voice in their government, to be treated with respect, no matter who they are. These are fundamental tenets of democracies like ours, and our purpose is to give real meaning to these words.
Blinken will be meeting Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. This is his first visit to India after the Biden administration took charge. And in March this year, the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had visited the country. In April, U.S. Special Envoy on Climate Change John Kerry also paid a visit to New Delhi. A number of crucial issues will be discussed during the course of Blinken's visit. The fallout of the U.S. troop pullout from Afghanistan and the impact of territorial gains made by the Taliban will, of course, dominate the discussions between the leaders. Pakistan-sponsored terrorism and the Indo-Pacific cooperation will also be high on the agenda. The two sides are expected to explore different ways and means to deepen collaboration on defense, and this will cover policy exchanges, exercises, defense transfers and technologies. India and the US are likely to take the Quad vaccine initiative forward. In fact, as we speak, we're now getting live shots coming in from the Hyderabad House in New Delhi, where U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is now meeting his Indian counterpart, that is Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Once again, these are live visuals coming in from New Delhi, where the two foreign ministers have officially met. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar have kick-started their talks. On the agenda, of course, will be the security situation in Afghanistan, the territorial gains made by the Taliban. Pakistan state-sponsored terrorism will also be high on the agenda. But, of course, strengthening the bilateral ties between the US and India will remain the focus of Blinken's short visit to the country. Now, remember, this happens to be the US Secretary of State's first visit to India since Biden assumed office in January. And earlier today, Blinken spoke with a group of civil society leaders at a hotel in New Delhi, and he said that the relationship between India and the United States is one of the most important in the world. These are once again live shots coming in from New Delhi, where the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is about to start his high-level talks with India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. He is also expected to meet Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi later today. He will also be meeting the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he is currently kick-starting his talks with the Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. This visit comes at a crucial time for the region, of course, where the security situation in Afghanistan is high on the agenda. And India, of course, is a big stakeholder in the peace situation, or rather the development towards a peace situation in Afghanistan, as the Taliban continues to make territorial gains in the country.
May we begin? Secretary Blinken, it's a great pleasure to welcome you back, this time on your first visit to India as Secretary of State. I'm confident that the visit will be a very productive one and that the quality of our discussions will fully reflect the strength of our relationship. Our bilateral cooperation has vastly expanded in the last few years. They today cover virtually all domains of contemporary relevance. Our interests are shared, our concerns are similar, and our convergences are strong. Talks today will provide an updated direction to our colleagues to translate these into practical outcomes. Responding to the COVID pandemic has added new facets to our growing cooperation in an increasingly multipolar world. Peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific is as important for both of us as democratic stability in Afghanistan. Deepening the Quad as a collaborative platform is in our mutual interest, and we must work together even more closely on key contemporary challenges like terrorism, climate change, pandemics, and resilient supply chains. In democratic societies, it is also natural that legitimate concerns and people's aspirations will find expression, including in foreign policy. Our conversations on global issues in a rebalancing world would surely be richer from real exchanges of national experiences and historical perspectives. Once again, let me say how good it is to see you here, and I invite you to make your opening remarks.
Well, thank you so much. It is wonderful to be back in India, but for the first time in my capacity as Secretary of State. It's always a great pleasure to be with you. We've had the opportunity to know each other and work together for many years now, going back to the last time I was in government, and I deeply appreciate the work that we've been able to do together, and the work that I believe we're going to be able to do together in the coming months and years. And I really couldn't have said it any better than you just did. But let me say simply that as we're looking at it, as the United States sees it, there is not a single major challenge that has an impact on the lives of our citizens, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's a changing climate, whether it's the disruptive impact of emerging technologies, that can be addressed by any one of us acting alone. There is a greater imperative than ever, I think, on cooperation, coordination, collaboration among countries, especially among countries who share basic perspectives, basic values, and basic interests. And that is certainly the case with the United States and India. I think we've seen over the last couple of decades a relationship that has grown stronger and deeper across multiple administrations in both of our countries. And President Biden's determination is to continue in exactly that direction, to grow it even stronger and even deeper. We have a lot on our agendas, and I think that's actually a reflection of the strength of the relationship as it exists already, and you've touched on many of them. So I look forward to getting down to work with you and your colleagues. Thank you.
There you go. The two leaders have officially started their meeting and set the tone for the agenda that will follow. We heard India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar talk about the importance of peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific, and deepening the Quad, of course, remains a huge goal of this expected meeting. Other issues on this agenda will be terrorism, climate change, building resilient supply chains, and a coordinated effort towards tackling the pandemic. For a better understanding of the agenda of this meeting, we now have WION's principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, joining us live. Siddhant, thanks so much for joining us. Now, we just heard the opening remarks from both the foreign ministers. Tell us, what do you think will dominate the agenda as the meeting begins?
Well, undoubtedly, it will be Afghanistan that will be dominating the agenda. The meeting has started, of course. We know that the focus on Afghanistan is that how to stabilize the situation, given the fact that Taliban is making increased territorial gains in the country. And India, of course, will be asking US to make sure that there is sustained pressure on Islamabad when it comes to the issue of terrorism. Islamabad continues to support terrorism, and that is concern for India, for Afghanistan as well. In fact, the Afghan president had publicly slammed the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan at the Uzbekistan Connectivity Summit for Islamabad support to Taliban. So that, of course, remains the top focus and priority during this day-long visit of the U.S. Secretary of State Blinken to Delhi. In fact, he has already met the Indian NSA Ajit Doval earlier this morning. And before that, there was a meeting of civil society. Interestingly, that civil society meeting saw presence of a Tibetan monk as well, which, of course, is something that will be keenly noted in Beijing.
Right, Siddhant, my final question for you. We just heard Secretary Blinken say that countries with shared values and interests, specifically India and the US, should join forces together. Will we see an alliance against China's aggression, especially in the Indo-Pacific?
There is an alliance already in existence, especially when it comes to the Quad grouping, India, Australia, US and Japan. In fact, this meeting will lay ground for the upcoming Quad in-person meeting that will take place later this year. This meeting is expected to take place in US. Already the virtual meeting has taken place, in which the key outcome was Quad vaccine initiative, under which India will be making vaccines for the countries in the Indo-Pacific, particularly the ASEAN countries. So the Chinese aggressiveness remain a top issue as well. We know that even as we speak, there are talks of the military level conversations between India and China. We do expect those conversations to take place in August. But until that, we have seen the build-up by the Chinese side still continues at the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh.
Right, Siddhant, thank you so much for joining us on WION at this hour, and thank you for all your input. WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.